You think you know who you are. But what no one ever told you is that the fire inside you is unlike anyone else's. You carry the sign of Aries, the pioneer, the warrior of fire. Yet your soul chose a very specific day to be born, a day that was never random but a coded moment of destiny written for you in the universe. Your birthday is not just a number. It's a gateway, a message sent only to you, about a hidden power you haven't fully remembered yet. And if you've always felt something different moving inside you, a pull you can't quite name, a sense that you were born to do something greater, then maybe right now this is the awakening your soul has been waiting for, because not every Aries is the same, and your fire might be exactly what this world needs more than ever. There are things in life that seem simple until we truly stop and listen. And in that stillness, something opens, something deeper than we imagined. It's the same with Aries, the very first sign, the symbol of beginnings, the heartbeat that echoes first in the great chest of the universe. People often see Aries in familiar terms: impulsive, brave, fiery, quick to act. But if you slow down long enough, if you truly listen to the fire within you, you'll feel something different, because your fire is not like anyone else's. Not every soul born under the Aries sign carries the same essence. What makes you different is the day your soul chose to arrive here. Your birth date is not just a number, it's a code, a sacred moment when the universe whispered to you, "Go now, carry the mission your soul has chosen." Each day, Mars, the god of action and battle, aligns with a different frequency in the sky. Some days ignite the trailblazers, some days nourish the quiet dreamers, and others burn with a silent light through the darkness, not to guide themselves, but to guide the entire world. And you, the one listening right now, you didn't come here by accident. Maybe you've lived your whole life not knowing why you feel so different, why you sense something greater pulsing inside your chest, like a calling that never leaves, a fire that pushes you, but also isolates you. That loneliness, that feeling of being misunderstood, is not weakness. It's the mark of a soul sent to Earth to carry the original flame. Aries is the energy of beginnings, the first strike of the battle drum, the first foot to step forward into the unknown. But what they don't often tell you is that not every warrior looks the same. Some are born to lead, some to inspire, some were chosen to walk barefoot through thorns, just to clear the path for others, and some were born to heal an entire generation, with the very wounds still healing inside themselves. I once spoke with an Aries woman in her 40s. She was raising 3 children on her own after her marriage fell apart. She said, "I don't know why I keep fighting, even when there's no one left beside me, but I can't stop." When she told me her birth date, I understood. She carried the fire of initiation, the kind that doesn't wait to be seen to start burning. She was one of those rare souls, chosen to knock on the first door of a world that's about to awaken. Her story is not so different from millions of Aries out there, quietly powerful in ways the world rarely notices. So if you've ever felt alone on your journey, if you've ever been called too impulsive, too much, too stubborn, pause for a moment and ask yourself, was it a misunderstanding or a mission waiting to be named? Because I believe your soul chose to be born under this sign on that exact day for a reason, and that reason is anything but small. If you're hearing this right now, none of this is random. Your presence in this moment is a call, a bell echoing through time, awakening your soul's memory, because somewhere in your past or in the future of this world, you once made a promise to the universe. When the time comes, I will remember, I will return, I will lead. And if your birth falls within these dates, you are more than a warrior. You are the one chosen to lead the way into a new era. Let's begin. At the very first day of the Aries cycle, where everything starts, where the first warriors stepped out from the dark, unafraid, unapologetic, unshaken. And if you are one of them, listen closely, because next we'll uncover the trailblazers, those born between March 21st and March 25th. Some souls choose to arrive earlier than others, not because they are in a rush, but because they made a promise to the universe, that they would be the first to clear the path. Those born between March 21st and March 25th are exactly that. They don't wait for the lights to come on. They don't need permission. They don't ask for a role before taking action. All they need is space, an idea, a tiny signal in the wind, and they move quietly, alone, but without hesitation. If the zodiac cycle is a grand play of the soul, then Aries is the opening act, and those born in the first days, March 21st to March 25th, are the first footsteps onto the stage of life. They're not here to follow anyone. They're here to create a road that no one has dared to walk before. I once met a man named Daniel, born on March 22nd. He was the first in his family to go to college, the first to leave his small hometown for the big city, and the first to stand up against injustice at work, even though he knew he'd lose more than he'd gain. When I asked him what gave him the courage to go against the grain, he simply smiled and said, "I don't know. I just couldn't stand watching everything go wrong. While everyone stayed silent, someone had to speak up, so I did." That simple answer was the clearest proof of a path-breaking Aries soul. They don't act for applause. They don't need to be thanked. They act because deep inside them, there is a call that cannot be ignored, a voice that knocks on their chest every morning saying, "If you don't move forward, then who will?" People born in this window carry a very unique dual energy. One foot still touches the dreamlike breath of Pisces, intuitive, spiritual, compassionate. The other foot is already burning in the fire of Aries, brave, relentless, and clear in purpose. This combination of spiritual intuition and fearless action creates the kind of pioneers no one expects. They may be the mother who dares to leave a marriage to save herself, the father who quits his job to be present with his child, the young woman who starts a business despite all the headshakes around her. They are the ones who break cycles of silence in families, the ones who speak the truths no one wants to hear, but everyone needs to. Their power doesn't lie in loudness. It lies in the quiet persistence no one ever sees. They may not be good at showing it, but they are excellent at surviving, and in this world, sometimes surviving itself is a revolution. So if you're listening right now and you were born during these days, I want you to know something. Your quiet bravery is lighting a fire in someone else. Even if no one's ever said thank you, even if you've been misunderstood, even if you felt left behind, the light you carry is still burning because your soul is a torch, not a parade torch, but the kind that guides the lost through the darkest parts of the forest. Think back to a moment in your life, a moment when everyone else stayed silent, when everyone stepped back and you stepped forward. You didn't know what would happen next, but you stepped forward anyway. That is your essence. And if you share that story, the time you chose to act when no one else would, you might just inspire someone who's standing at a crossroads right now, because sometimes the path you walked yesterday is the path someone else will walk tomorrow. And just because you went first, it might be a little easier for them to follow. But if you were born after the 25th, the fire inside you doesn't just burn steady, it starts to roar. Not just the fire to act, but the fire to explode past every limitation that's ever tried to hold you back. Some people are born carrying a light they don't even recognize. Not the brilliance of the sun, not the softness of the moon, but the flash of lightning across a silent sky. Powerful, unexpected, impossible to ignore. Those born between March 26th and April 1st carry this kind of light, a light that doesn't wait for approval, that doesn't need anyone else to reflect it because they are the source. What makes this group of Aries unique isn't how loud they are or how much noise they make. Their power is in their presence. They walk into a room and the air changes. They speak a single sentence and suddenly everyone listens, not because they demand it, but because they are real, so real it's hard to look away. I once met a woman named Alina, born on March 29th, a high school literature teacher, not famous, not loud, and yet behind her stood hundreds of former students who called her the only one who ever made them want to learn, want to live, want to change. When I asked her why she never used force or strict rules to make students obey, she simply smiled and said, "I don't come to class to teach them anything. I come to show them I believe in them. And in that moment, I understood. Elena is an unbound leader. A leader with no throne, no title, no need to shout, yet people follow. You see, Aries born during this time don't wait for others to lead. They move forward on their own. But unlike those born earlier, who act from raw instinct, this group acts from a deep-rooted belief in freedom. They can't stand rigid boxes. They won't follow meaningless rules. And when they witness injustice, they are the first to say, this isn't right. Even if it means criticism, even if it means being misunderstood, even if it means being left out, they still speak, because inside them lives a vow: never turn your back on the truth. These Aries are often labeled as difficult, rebellious, or different when they're young, but that difference, if nurtured right, becomes a power that can shape cultures, communities, even generations. They're the kind of people no one understands at first, the ones who get pushback in the middle, and the ones everyone follows in the end. If you're listening now and your birthday falls in the final days of March or the very beginning of April, you may have asked yourself the same question over and over: why don't I fit in? And the answer is simple: because you weren't meant to. You were born to lead, in your own way, not with your fists, not with your voice raised, but with a free mind and a courage that cannot be bought. You weren't born to be controlled. You were born to set others free, not just yourself, but those trapped in invisible cages of fear and expectation. And you don't need a stage or a big campaign to do it. Sometime, just living true to yourself is a revolution in itself. I want to invite you now to pause just for a moment, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and think of a time you were told you were too different. How did that feel? How did you survive it? And today, what would you say to that younger version of you, still confused, still searching? If you can, write it down, share it in the comments, because maybe, just maybe, your story will help someone out there realize that being different isn't a burden, it's a gift, a rare one, given only to souls strong enough to carry it. And then, when that fire inside you burns not just for yourself, but for something greater, a dream, a cause, a community, a collective pain, that's when Aries stops being just a warrior and becomes a heart in motion. The kind of person who doesn't just lead but loves, who protects, who sacrifices for what they believe is right. Not every warrior lifts a sword to conquer. Some fight for the survival of the weak, and some fight for love. If you were born between April 2nd and April 6th, you carry a rare essence. You are the warrior of compassion, a heart that acts, a soul that doesn't just understand pain, but dares to enter it and transform it into light for others. Your soul was born in the merging space between Mars' fierce rise and the emerging softness. That seeps into the later days of Aries. That makes you different. You don't act just to win. You act to soothe, to heal, to protect. When the world goes quiet in the face of injustice, you speak up. When someone breaks in silence, you kneel down, you reach out, and you don't walk away halfway. I remember once, at a small workshop in Portland, I met a woman named Clara, born on April 5th. She worked in social care, supporting children who had survived abuse. She said something I never forgot. I can't change their past, but if today I can make them laugh, even once, maybe their soul will start to believe in the light again. That is the voice of a warrior of the heart, not fighting with power, fighting with love. Aries born during these days are often misunderstood as children, too emotional, too sensitive. They cried over things adults thought were silly. But what people didn't see was their deeply tuned human intuition. They felt other people's pain. They heard the words no one ever said out loud, and instead of turning away, they walked toward it. What sets this group apart is their ability to act without thinking of themselves. They give up personal comfort to protect what they believe is right. They become teachers in forgotten villages, nurses in underfunded hospitals, counselors for those the world doesn't know how to help. You won't see them on magazine covers, but they are the reason this world hasn't fallen apart. You are not just someone who holds the sword. You are someone who uses it to clear the path so love can walk through. That's not weakness. That is the highest strength, the strength to be gentle in a world that demands you be hard. Not the strength to dominate, but the strength to protect, not to win, but to heal. And if you were born during these days, April 2nd to April 6th, maybe you felt too tired, too sensitive, always the one who steps up first. But hear me now, your kindness has never been wasted, your tenderness was never small, every act you made from love, even in silence, left a mark on this world like quiet streaks of light across a dark sky. When you help someone, do you feel that warmth in your chest? That little flicker, that's the healing fire inside you. No one sees it clearly, but it softens every room you enter. You don't have to change the whole world in a day. But if you keep walking, keep loving, keep reaching out, the world will change. If you're listening now, share a moment when you acted out of pure compassion, not for praise, not for reward, just because you couldn't walk away. That story might be the light someone else is searching for today, and maybe, just maybe, you are the answer they've been waiting for. Some people weren't born to walk alongside the world. They were born to set it on fire, not with destruction, but with a presence so intense, it reshapes the space around them. If you were born between April 7th and April 11th, your soul carries a flame that cannot be ignored. A heat that doesn't come from outside, but rises up from your chest like a silent volcano that never stops burning. Aries born during these days don't walk, they charge. They live like they are running toward a finish line that doesn't exist. They think fast, they love deep, they burn with rage, and sometimes even their forgiveness feels like fire. That intensity makes them unforgettable. They create like thunder, they act without hesitation, and they love without holding anything back. I once interviewed an indie musician in Chicago, born April 10th. He wrote 12 songs in a single night after ending a 6-year relationship. No one asked him to, no contract, no deadline, just a heart too full to contain, and music was the only way to keep it from exploding. When I asked why he didn't just keep it all to himself, he said, "If I don't write, I'll go crazy, and if I don't share it, I'll feel selfish." That is the core of what I call an electrified spirit. They don't create to be remembered. They create because if they don't, they'll burst. People born during these days are often misunderstood, too emotional, too explosive, can't control their feelings. But beneath that so-called recklessness is a system of emotions, so deep, so sensitive that words can't capture it. They feel what others overlook, and they react with raw honesty. No mask, no filter, no shield. That's why they hurt so easily. But it's also why they can heal so profoundly, because the ones who hurt the most often become the most powerful healers, not because they're perfect, but because they know what pain feels like. And from that knowing, they choose never to hurt others the same way. They become protectors, even if no one ever protected them. They are fire, not born to light their own path, but to warm those still shivering in the dark. If you're listening now and you've ever been called too much, too sensitive, too intense, please know this: the world needs you. It needs your raw light, your honest emotions, your ability to sit beside pain and whisper, "I've been there too." Pause for a moment. Think of a time you were on fire, not out of rage, but because something touched you so deeply you couldn't stay still. A moment you acted without thinking, impulsive maybe, but real, so real. That moment was you, unmasked, uncaged, unapologetically true. And if the world scolded you for it, forgive yourself. Maybe you were the one who spoke the truth everyone felt, but no one dared to say. If you can, share that moment. Write it down. Let others see. They're not alone in their storm of feelings, and remind yourself, you are not a system error. You are the flame born to burn bright, not fit neatly into the cage of pretend safety. And soon, this fire will begin to soften, not because it's fading, but because it's evolving, reaching for something higher, where actions no longer scream, but still shake the world with a single glance. Not all fires burn brightly in the open. Some glow quietly, in the shadows, lighting the places ordinary light can't reach. If you were born between April 12th and April 17th, you carry that kind of flame, soft, still, but so deep, it can soothe wounds that don't even have names yet. Aries born during these final days are often the quiet ones. They don't fight for the spotlight. They don't demand to be seen, but when they show up with sincerity, with stillness, The whole room feels calmer, as if they carry an invisible candle inside them that reignites faith in the souls that have forgotten how to believe. I once met a man named Adrian at a silent retreat in Colorado. He was born on April 14th. He barely spoke, but his eyes, still deep, almost ocean-like, made people pause. During one session, a woman broke down crying, remembering her late mother. Adrian said nothing for a long while. Then he sat beside her, placed a hand gently on her shoulder, and whispered, "She's still here." That was all. And yet, it felt like something heavy was lifted from everyone's chest. People like Adrian, they don't just feel, they sense. They walk into a room and pick up on the energy before a single word is spoken. They know without knowing why they know. And sometimes, even they don't understand how much they feel. But that sensitivity, that inner stillness, isn't a weakness, it's a sacred gift. If you're one of these souls, you may have grown up feeling different. Maybe they told you, you're too dreamy, too quiet, or worse, you're invisible. But please hear this, your silence is not an absence, it's a frequency. You are the resting place. Others don't even know they're seeking until they find you. You are not unseen, you are the keeper of light in the darkest hours. The soul that was always there, waiting to be needed. You fight in the unseen, no weapons, no stage, just the grounded presence of a conscious soul. Maybe you're the one in the family who always knows, who always feels when someone is hurting, even when they say they're fine. Maybe you've comforted someone with a simple message, a silent hug, a steady gaze, and maybe you've never been thanked, but you keep doing it because your soul cannot look away from someone else's pain. Your greatest lesson isn't to be louder like the Aries before you. It's to trust that your stillness is also a form of power. It takes immense courage to enter the storm within and still emerge with your compassion intact. And if you are doing that, you are already walking the path of a true healer. Think back to the last time your intuition was so strong you acted on it even without knowing why. What did you do? What happened next? Maybe it was magical, maybe it was messy, but it was proof that you are deeply connected to something greater. That feeling is your private language with the universe. If you're open, share a time you just knew something before anyone else. A dream, a gut feeling, a moment when someone smiled but you could feel they needed to be held. Your story might help someone realize their intuition isn't something to hide, it's a sacred gift, waiting to be trusted. And just before the Aries cycle ends, there emerges a rare kind of soul, one that doesn't just carry the fire of Aries but already touches the vision of what comes next, as if they've placed one foot in a new world, where instinct meets wisdom and emotion becomes a mission greater than themselves. Some souls choose to be born at the very end of a journey, not because they are late, but because they are meant to carry the message of transition. If you were born on April 18th or 19th, you live at the threshold between fire and earth, between the fierce movement of Aries and the grounded wisdom of Taurus. And right there, between the rise and the stillness, you become a doorway. You might not be easy to understand because you speak a different kind of language, the language of old souls, of those who have walked through light and shadow, of those who feel the future before it even begins. Prophets don't come to shout, they come to pave the way, quietly, deliberately, like the first hand, laying down bricks for a temple no one's imagined yet. Late Aries carry a different light, not a blinding spotlight, but a warm, steady flame, like a candle glowing through the night. On the steps of an ancient shrine, they see far, but their feet stay rooted in the now. They move forward, but not recklessly. They know the gaze of the warrior and the breath of the teacher, and so they become anchors, the kind of soul people come to when they reach a crossroads in life and don't know which way to turn. I once met a man named Michael, born on April 19th. He was the first in his family to become a therapist, but he didn't study healing, he lived it. Every word he spoke seemed measured by the heart. Every silence he offered was an invitation. Go deeper. When I asked why he chose this path, at the age of 45, he simply looked at me and said, "Because I can't look away when something is breaking inside someone else." That answer made me think of you, the one listening right now. If you were born in those final moments of Aries, maybe you've often felt stuck between two worlds, not fully the fire of classic Aries, not quite the comfort seeker of Taurus. You're in between, and because you're in between, you see more, you hear what others miss, you feel what hasn't even been spoken yet. You are the gatekeeper, one foot in the old world, one in what's yet to come. You don't just see the future, you sense it, and you know when to speak and when to hold space. Not because you're uncertain, but because you understand the power of timing. When you speak, people listen. When you act, something shifts. Even if they can't explain why, you carry the energy of a foundation layer. There is no need to rush, no need to prove your worth with speed. You don't have to claim your place, because it was given to you long before now. You are the soul who lays the first stone so that others can one day build a dream greater than themselves. If you've ever felt older than your age, or like you just knew something before being taught, if you felt lonely in rooms full of noise, it may be because you were born to be a guide, not to control others, but to quietly shine the light so they can finally see themselves. And now I invite you, if you've ever had a moment when your intuition roared so loudly you couldn't stay silent, a time when you had to speak even when no one expected it, a time you stepped forward, not because you were sure, but because someone needed you. Share that story. Let others see that prophets are not people who know everything. They are the ones who feel what's coming and refuse to look away. And now, as this journey nears its close, let us pause for one final breath, not to stop, but to remember, to thank the soul who dared to step into this life, even when the path was never promised to be easy. My dear friend, if you're still here, still listening right now in this moment, then I want to thank you with all my heart, not just for staying with me until the very end of this journey, but because I truly believe some part of you has already realized you're walking a path that's unlike any other, a path lit by the flame inside you, the same flame the universe placed in your heart. The moment you were born under the sign of Aries, whether you were born on the very first day, carrying the fierce fire of the pioneer, or on the last day, where that fire begins to soften into vision, you are part of this symphony, this fiery symphony of souls, who came to lead, to protect, to awaken, and to open doors the world has never seen before. I know this path hasn't been easy. As an Aries, you may have been misunderstood. You may have moved faster than those around you. You may have loved too deeply, hurt too silently, or felt like you were carrying too much for a world not yet ready to change. And yet, you kept going, and that is what makes you extraordinary, because you weren't born to follow. You were born to lead. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whether you're rising high or walking through the darkest stretch of your path, may you never lose that inner light. That light is yours. No one can take it from you. It is the fire this world needs, and the gift only you were born to give. Thank you for being exactly who you are. And may I leave you with this, a quiet blessing offered with sincerity. May you always have enough peace to keep your flame alive, and enough courage to keep doing what you were born to do.